I felt almost bare, like I didn't know who I am without the marriage, who I am without my job. And it was very much baby steps. And sometimes it felt like 2 steps forward and 3 steps backwards. And I've been interested in kind of self-development and try different modalities. And like I told my sister that this is good time to really put them to a test, like what works and what doesn't.
Everyone has a sock drawer where we hide the stuff we don't want to face. Today, we're opening yours. I'm Lisa Begley, and this is the Sock Drawer Podcast. If your life feels messy, stuck, or outgrown, good. That's where we begin. Hey there, Sock Drawer family. What if the reason you haven't found love again is because you're still living as the version of you that survived your last relationship? Think about that. Today's conversation, it's not about dating. It's about identity. Because sometimes the hardest part after heartbreak is not losing them, it's losing yourself. Hey everyone, welcome to the Sock Drawer Podcast. Love having you here. This is your space for, the messy middle, the part of life where things don't quite fit anymore, but you're not fully sure who you're becoming next. That's us. I'm Lisa Begley, and if you've ever felt like life handed you a chapter that you really didn't expect, you're in the right place. In today's episode, brought to you by Project Icon, helping leaders and founders share their story, build their brand, and find their voice. Today, I'm joined by Eija Ananda. She is a love and self-leadership coach who helps men and women over 50 rebuild their confidence, heal from the past, and open themselves back up to genuine, meaningful relationships. But here's what I want to say. What makes her work so powerful is that it didn't come from theory. It came from her own life, like many of us. And after going through a painful divorce and finding herself at a point where everything sort of felt uncertain, she had to rebuild not just her life, but her identity. Something not many of us think about, right? And what she discovered along the way, we're going to talk about today, but it's something I think many of you listening will really relate to. That finding love again, it's not really about finding someone else. It's about coming back home to yourself first. Eija, welcome to the Sock Drawer Podcast family. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You are welcome. Well, it's our pleasure to have you. And I was very excited for this conversation, as you know. I know we've talked a few times, but so let's I always like to go back to the origin story, right? So let's go back for a moment. Take me to the point where your life shifted. What was actually happening at that moment?
Well, that was a little more than 4 years ago now. And a few months prior, I had lost my job. It was right before the pandemic hit. I was in a startup, and that was a big kind of disappointment for me. And then the pandemic came, and it was like very hard to find a new job. And a couple months after that, I found out that my husband was with somebody else. And basically our 23-year-old marriage ended in one single conversation. And and life as I knew it was no longer.
What did losing your marriage, we talk a lot about identity. What did losing your marriage, and I'm so sorry that happened, what did it do to your sense of identity?
I sometimes have described it as a rock bottom, because it was kind of like we were our friends often called that, Eija and my ex are the perfect couple. And we always seemed so happy. And I was very much in love with him. And he kind of had lived this life where he had hidden his true feelings. And so anyways, after that conversation, that was maybe 10 o'clock at night that I found out that he has been unfaithful. And this next sentence was almost like, well, I want a divorce. And next day he left. So it was kind of like there was no time to think. And it was almost like I couldn't believe it. Yeah. It's like, how did I not see it? Although there were maybe a couple months prior, I would count. It was easier to see when you realize the situation, that there were two kind of moments where this idea is almost like traveled through my head, that maybe he's not faithful. But I dismissed it because that was not anywhere in my thinking.
Sure.
So the
I've
next
read.
thing that
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so the next thing kind of happened, that it was a shock, and kind of, so I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. I mean, I was a human wreck. But something interesting happened. About 4 days after he left, he wanted to come and talk to me. And I had, like I said, I felt like a human wreck, and I tried to wash my hair, put on some makeup, and I was meditating. Then my sister said that, I'm going to do a reconnective healing for you. My other sister called and said that, well, they both live in the US, said that we're standing behind you. When my sister was doing the reconnective healing for me, I kind of sensed that, in my mind's eye, of course, that I had a fire that had almost gone out by my left side of my stomach. And I don't know if it was myself or my sister that kind of stoked the fire. It started burning brightly. And when I met him, I was like a different person. I literally felt supported. My loved ones were behind me. And I don't know exactly what happened, because that hasn't happened ever before or since then. But it was almost like I was in a higher self, a place where I didn't feel the anger. I didn't feel the, like I was me, but I was better human than me, myself.
Yeah.
And speaking from that place was such a profound experience for me, because I didn't come from anger or disappointment or sadness. I came from peace and love. And we talked for 4 hours, so it was very important to go through the situation.
And was
So
that
that was,
all he wanted to talk about? Was just to kind of almost reconvene to hash through what happened? He felt like he.
yeah, kind of, yeah. And basically that was it. But that was such an important moment for me, because it felt like, even though I felt that of course I was left by my husband, but I still somehow felt this support very strongly. And something I forgot to say, that the very first night, it was early hours in the morning, I wake up to this sentence repeating in my head. And it said in Finnish, but it said, this was supposed to happen. And I remember fighting it first, like, no. But it repeated itself as long as, and once I said, fine, this was supposed to happen, the voice disappeared. So those are kind of like, and I believe that it truly, and I remember saying to myself that this is my anchor. I'm going to take this. I don't really believe it at that moment, but I'm going to use that as my anchor. And a couple other things I decided very early on. Number one, I don't want to become bitter. And number two, I want to show my boys, 18 and 12, I think, at the time. Basically, we can do hard things. We can go through hard things and come on the top. So those kind of three things were my anchors to move forward.
So I know I had asked you, you just shared your story, and we're going to pick up at
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit of the story. So 1945. So sharing your story, one of the things that you have mentioned, that I think I had just said this, that you said before you were making yourself small. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, and all of those things, because everything happened so fast. And what I shared in the beginning, those were like tiny moments still, but all these kind of bigger realizations came after. And it just was such a complete, and I sometimes have described it, that it's almost like when you're falling into deep well, and you falling so fast that all the stuff that doesn't serve you
Yeah.
kind of burns off.
That's a
That's
great
that's
description.
almost that's kind of almost it felt, but I felt almost bare.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know who I am without the marriage,
Mm.
who I am without my job, and and all that. So it was, but it was kind of, it was very much baby steps, and sometimes it felt like two steps forward and three steps backwards, or what,
Yeah.
how do you say that, that it wasn't easy. But I realized that I'm going to ask all the help possible, and I've been interested in kind of self development and all kind, try different modalities. And like I told my sister, that this is good time to really put them to a test, like what
Yeah,
works
there's
and what
support.
doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it started, like it felt very slowly. I was lucky that I have dear friends that were supportive. My
Yeah.
family was supportive. So I wasn't alone
Yeah.
in that sense. But still, that doesn't correct all the way to the what you're feeling inside you.
Exactly. You know, I'm sure even with all the support, there were many times when you did have multiple quiet moments after everything
For
fell
sure.
apart. And do you recall looking back now, what were you believing about yourself during those quiet moments?
I think the one thing that surprised me, I had a, not initially, quite soon, I had a lot of anger. And disappointment, and I felt dumb, like how could I not see this, you know? And I think that's very common if somebody is unfaithful to you, that you feel so blindsided that you feel like how come I was so dumb that I didn't
Yeah,
see it coming
I not see it.
or happen. But I did realize that I have to be kind to myself. It wasn't always easy, and it took maybe weeks or maybe a couple months until I started to feel sort of a footing, that I started walking in the nature. Just because I really, my sleep was bad. I would wake up and I really didn't want to see anybody either. So I woke up really early, sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning. It was springtime, so it was light outside. I would go for a walk to the forest nearby us, and just to be kind of alone and just to get outside.
Sure.
And I would, on the weekends, I would drive to the seaside again early in the morning, just a coffee with me and maybe a sandwich and a journal. And I would sit there and just look at the waves, and those things were so healing. I think more so than at the time I realized,
Yeah.
just to be in those moments, because I had meditated quite regularly before that, but after the shock of divorce or him leaving, I could not meditate. I just didn't have the, it's almost like my nervous system was shot.
Sure,
So,
absolutely. Do you now take, I want to go backwards a little bit because you said
yeah,
he called 4 days later and he wanted to come talk to you.
yeah.
And that was just kind of like to clear the air and give a little perspective on what happened and why. And did you find that to be helpful, or was that even more sort of detrimental to where you were in the moment?
It was helpful because of that inner experience, because that was, yeah, it was because I felt it was such a unique experience that I can't, it's hard to talk about it because it happened
Yeah,
just once. But it's almost like I thought that to myself, it's almost like I felt like myself be higher up,
yeah, yeah.
spiritually speaking,
Sure.
or and it
Like
was
if you,
kind of like,
yeah,
yeah, like I was kind of like, wow,
yeah.
is it that?
I mean,
Yeah, so it was,
what strikes me about this is that I mean, whether, what he did, whatever, but the fact that he would be willing to come back and have a conversation with you about it. And you had that experience prior to that, that gave you the ability to hear it, right? Because at
yeah,
least maybe if
yeah,
nothing else, it gave you a little context. It gave you, with that conversation and what you learned afterwards, What was the hardest truth that you had to face, do you feel like, about yourself?
Well, during that conversation or after he left, he texted me that he wants to come back and be with me. And I was like, okay.
The plot
But I had,
thickens.
yeah, when we talked for 4 hours, but I had forgot to ask, had he been unfaithful prior to this relationship? So I asked that the next day and he said yes. And to me, that was like, okay, I don't know if I can. And then he said something that kind of baffled me. And he said that I don't think I can take that risk to come back. And I was like, I don't quite understand.
So he wanted
You
to
know
come
me.
back,
What's the risk?
and he didn't want to come back?
Yeah, I think
Had
the
to
thing was that he was so in love with this new person that he felt it was too risky to come back to me.
So that's interesting. So he wanted you to come back, or you wanted to come back?
I wasn't really, I think there was a moment when I was kind of pleased that he did consider it, but
Yeah.
that lasted less than 24 hours,
Yeah.
really.
Okay. That makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense. So
Yeah. So,
you have said that you rebuilt piece by piece, right?
yep.
For someone listening who's been through something similar,
Yeah.
what would you say is the very first piece that you needed to start with?
To find some kind of footing. It can be talking to your family or dear friends, or because it's hard to go forward when you're in so much pain.
Yeah.
So it's kind of almost that find ways that ease that pain a little bit. Hopefully it's not drinking or drugs or anything like that, because those don't help. But so the first thing is to kind of allow the pain to come through, because that's actually what was another hard thing, is that even though I was doing the things that were helping me, I was not drinking at all, I was eating healthily, I was moving my body, I started tapping. I tapped for every day for 1 year.
Dancing,
That
tap dancing.
No, tapping like EFT.
Okay. Yeah. Explain that for
Yeah.
our listeners. Not everybody's going to know that. When you say that, what
Yeah.
does that mean? So paint a picture for
So
us.
I'm not an expert, but so anyway, it is kind of instead of meditation, I kind of link it to this similar kind of thing, that you go through these kind of different points in your body, kind of tapping like this, and
Oh,
different, they're kind of like
I
I
love
don't know
that.
what they call them. Yeah, and you
The
say to
sensory points,
yourself,
right? They're nerve centers.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I'm with you.
And then you start the first round with the pain point. You can say something like, I'm in so much pain because whatnot. And always the kind of the round ends with, but I love myself. And then you start to kind of find ways to ease that pain. And what I did then wasn't directly, it was a guided thing that I did for a year. It was a Canadian woman, can't remember her name right now. But anyway, so sometimes the subject wasn't exactly what I was going through, but that didn't really matter. I just liked that practice.
Yeah, it seems powerful. Like I
It
love
is, it
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
yeah.
that's great.
And yeah, go ahead.
So now as you're going through all this and you're evolving and you're kind of growing and changing and kind of coming back to yourself, what did learning to trust yourself actually look like in real life? Not just the idea of it, but what was the practicality of it?
I think the first thing is that I put my efforts into taking care of myself. I was very good about that. And of course, my youngest son was still living at home. So, food and everything was important, but my health was not good. So that was another concern, that I almost felt like I had to do everything right because I was having health issues
Yeah.
because of that. It was also that what I said earlier, that I'm asking for all the help that I can get. So I talked to a therapist, and well, I did the tapping, and I did talk to my friends a little bit, but I was careful about that because I didn't want to burden them with kind of my issues too much.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's almost like there were some points that I was getting better and over kind of, but
Yeah.
my friend wasn't. And she was still angry at him. Or, that's kind of like, you don't want that. You want them to, your friends to be, remember that they don't have to be mad at your ex.
That is a great
And
point because, it's funny. We kind of waffle between you want that loyalty and that commitment and that show up for you support, right? And if
yeah,
there's even songs and memes and things out there like, if I don't like him, then my girlfriends don't like him, kind of a thing.
yeah,
And I get that. And there's a piece of that I think resonates with all of us. And I don't think it's that specific idea. I think it's more the fact that you have somebody a friendship that's so deeply loyal and committed to you and supporting your,
right.
emotional and physical health and spiritual health, that it's, that's what's most important. And I mean, in one breath, it's like, I get what you're saying, but the other, I'm like, it's great that you had that level of friendship with somebody.
Yeah,
And that's
for
hard to
sure.
find
For
sometimes.
sure.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
So I would say that, and I remember also saying that 3 months and I'm done suffering kind of thing.
okay.
That didn't happen.
I was like, okay, so you put a timer on it. Okay. How
Yeah,
did that work out?
it didn't. I think it didn't happen. It didn't happen. But I think it was still important for me to see that there are so many things that I can do to better my situation, to better my well-being. And that was my thing because of course I tried to find a job and did do that, did find a job eventually. But the main thing was still that I need to get better. And I would say then it was maybe like 6 months into it, I started the Fisher divorce seminar. I think that's international thing. I think it started in US and it's like a 12-week group seminar. There's a leader and there's the people who are divorcees. And that was very instrumental in my healing, more so than therapy, I think.
Well, and when we send anybody interested can come find you and you can share that with them at the time.
Yeah.
Say something powerful, really powerful, that dating after 50. So now that going through all this, kind of maybe jumping a little bit, that dating after 50 isn't really about dating. What do you mean by that?
It's about self-love.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is so interesting. Yeah, it's so interesting. I have few friends that are going through divorce or have been through divorce. And every time I bring it up about self-love, and I remember not more than one friend has said something to the effect that, what? This is not, this, I don't even, like they're baffled. It doesn't even exist in their vocabulary or in their kind of like, it's like it doesn't compute. So self-love to me is that, number one, you are good to yourself. I think when we're going through a divorce or have been hurt, and I did that in the beginning for sure, but we give so much headspace to the party that hurt us, and we should turn the spotlight on us and really start seeing our value and to kind of cherish the fact that you're alive. And because I think we take so many things for granted, and like I said, there's so many things that you can do, starting with your mindset.
Yeah. Mindset is so powerful and it's so difficult.
It is.
So it is because it's especially if you're in a season of anger or hurt or rebuilding, right? You're kind of in that, I
Yeah,
call it the messy middle, right? Where it's like
yeah, yeah,
you're not sure where you're headed and you don't have a path carved out. What do you think it is aside from anger or just not understanding self-love or just not being able to do that yet?
yeah,
What are people getting wrong about finding love later in life versus the 30-year-old who might be able to like slough it off and move on to the next one? And I'm not saying that about all 30-year-olds. Many people
yeah,
can, but most people can't. It's a
yeah,
different scenario, I think, when you've lived a little bit, half of your life and now you're out there trying to restart that part of it. What are people
yeah.
getting wrong about that?
I think the fact that they take all the hurt that we all have experienced throughout our lives, or the disappointments,
Yeah.
and kind of attach those,
Mm.
but they kind of forget that they have lived, overcome, loved, been in love, had a relationship. Rather concentrate on what you have learned and gained, and what is kind of on your, what is your history, not only the bad parts but the good parts too,
Yeah.
because we have people who are 50 and over. We have wisdom that we have accumulated. Hasn't always been easy, but that gives us perspective,
For sure.
and that should give us also knowledge about people. But I think that we, interestingly, what I've seen is that, and that kind of surprised me when I started coaching in dating, the childhood issues are front and center.
Mm.
My mother did this, my father did this.
Yes. Tell me more. Tell me more.
Yeah, so that really surprised me. That, and I, it is of course that because those are the years that we learn about love, or not learn about love in some
As it
cases.
were. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if we haven't kind of worked through those before, they don't go away, unfortunately. And yeah,
I wish more people would recognize that. I think it's fairly common or well known. Would you agree that people understand that their childhood wounds can translate to their adulthood, but
yeah,
you can know it and you either navigate through it or you find a way to get help and put it behind you. And I think so many
yeah.
don't do that. For someone listening, what would you say to them? How should they stop abandoning themselves in your relationships? Like, how do you do that? How do you learn not to do that?
Well, it is being aware, and something that what made me small and forget myself in the previous relationship was that it was too difficult to say the hard things.
Hmm.
So definitely don't have things unsaid. I don't mean meanly, but have the hard conversations before they become like this monster.
Yeah, that's great advice. That is great advice. And that's hard to do, you know?
It is hard to do, but I think if we don't do it now, when we're, more than half the life has most likely to passed, that when are we going to have the courage? So I do think that dating, being in a relationship, finding love, it does require courage, because
Yeah.
it's not necessarily easy, because most people in their 50s and 60s were most likely in their 20s when they last time they dated. Maybe they have, but like the apps thing, the dating apps, they're completely new, and it's kind of very 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 different, but you have to view it as a tool.
For,
And yeah,
yeah.
because unfortunately, like one of my clients said, that once he goes to a restaurant, all the men, if they're single, they're looking at their phone. Nobody
Yeah.
looks up.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely the world has changed when it comes to that. And as much as I feel like as much as we need human connection, we don't recognize it enough to put our phones down or to pick up
Yeah.
a phone and call somebody rather than, or to just give
Yeah.
somebody a hug or a nod hello, a smile, whatever it may be, So take me to, you're a pretty well known coach. Consultant, can you take me to how you decided I'm gonna do this and help others?
My background is in design. I'm a graphic designer and interior designer.
Mm.
And I had started this clutter clearing coaching as a kind of a side thing. And so I had done it for a while. And then I decided I'm going to, because people had bigger issues than I was comfortable tackling.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to go school for that and get a certificate for coaching. And that was little after my marriage had ended. But when I was, that coaching was year and a half, that course that I took. During that time, I started dating, and I dated on the apps.
Mm.
So that's what I kind of first thought, kind of jokingly, almost like, well, those poor men, they need help. Like, why do they put the worst photo on those apps? It's like they're trying to look bad. I don't understand it. But anyway, the point was that I realized, and I went on a lot of dates. I was on a mission.
Research, it's research.
Yeah. And I did realize that so many people that I didn't have really any bad experiences with the people that I met, but also I think a lot of it was that they they seem kind of a little bit lost.
Mm.
Not all of them, of course, but
Yeah.
some.
Yeah.
And so I think the only way I believe that you get clarity, what you really want, is by dating. Because I hadn't dated for 25 years, somebody other than my husband.
Yeah.
So it's not like I knew what I wanted. I mean, of course I knew what I don't want, but still there's a gap between what you don't want and what you
Yes.
actually would like. And so dating provided that window for me.
Mm.
It kind of helped me clarify. It's like, okay, yeah, but no. I think it's such a valuable, and seeing people with curiosity.
Yeah.
I think we so often, and I did this too, that you kind of hope that it will go somewhere, or it's kind of like you have to have a little bit of hope, but you still want to go to meeting the person with curiosity.
Yeah. So,
Because yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Because that,
Yeah, because that helps when you go on a lot of dates. You kind of tell the same things. So it's not always so interesting to yourself. So you have to be interested about the other person, because that's what makes it difference.
I could not agree with you more on that. And I think that is a lost art, is that,
Yeah.
being able to really listen, not just blindly stare at somebody while it goes in one ear and out the other, but to really take in what they're saying. And I think if you go in, just like you're saying, I love this so much that you say, if you go in with an open heart and an open mind and just the positive energy to receive whatever comes your way, whether it's a match or not,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
enjoy the time. Enjoy the time and
Yeah.
listen and learn about somebody else. This isn't a lifelong commitment. It's a date. So
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's such great advice and such great perspective. And if you could, will you tell our audience and our listeners, give us your website. Where can they find you? Of course, we'll link all of this in the show notes too. Before we go to our 60-second drawer dash rapid fire fun
Okay.
questions, I want them to know how to find you, because I want them to be able to ask you about that 12-week seminar that you recommend, for a divorcee
Yeah.
course. It sounds super powerful. Your coaching is very, very introspective and powerful. And so I think
Thank you.
anybody needing that, that mentorship, that support, you won't find anybody better than Aya to find that. So what is your website, if you will?
My website is waytolovecoaching.com.
Okay.
there's all the information there. And then I have a YouTube channel
Yes, yes, I saw
under
that.
my name.
Yes, I love that. So we'll make sure the YouTube channel, the website is all linked in our show notes, and look her up and just get some perspective, right? And she has a lot of free resources. I noticed that you have some
Yeah.
free resources on your website as well, which could be a good start and very helpful to, getting through the recovery and the grief process, So,
Yeah, and I have a free 30-minute call to see if I'm a match with them, because
yeah.
it's important too. Coaching is a very intimate process because people share very intimate things about their life.
Yeah.
So it needs to be, a good match
I
who you
love that.
coach with.
So many coaches don't offer that step, right? And they don't realize that it does have to be a good fit. You want the person you're talking to and sharing your deepest, darkest secrets with to
Yeah.
be fit and to be connected. And you want to be able to, if you're going to benefit, I think you need to be able to resonate with them. So thank you for that. And we'll make sure it's all in there. Now, if you don't mind, anything else for our listeners before we jump to a little bit of fun?
No, we can jump in.
Okay, we're jumping in. So this is called our 60-second drawer dash. That's my little take on it. And it's just like 5 or 6 questions, quick, and just your first thing that comes to your mind. Don't second think it. Just throw it out there. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Love or independence?
Love.
Chemistry or emotional safety?
Emotional safety.
First date nerves or excitement?
Oh, that's a tough one. First date nerves.
This is my favorite. One red flag you'll never ignore again.
Inconsistency.
I love that so much. One word for the woman that you are today.
Empowered.
Yes, yes. And you too can get there. Just reach out to Eija. Now listen, so every time we ask for our guests to offer a tiny dare, that's what we call it. So for someone listening right now who feels like it might be too late for them, or they're in the thick of it and they don't know how to overcome their sadness, their anger, their whatever it is, what is one small step you would challenge them to take this week?
Well, the important thing is that it's a small step. So depending on your situation, figure out the smallest thing you can do consistently, because that is how you create momentum. And once you have that small step kind of figured out and you've done it day after day, and you feel like it's almost automatic, then add the next step. So because we often kind of overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in 5 years. I'm not saying that you need to take 5 years. You can do a lot in 1 year.
Yes, it's true.
But it is that living intentionally, you don't have to do it 24/7. Of course, we are human. We can, have off moments too, but have moments of intention, and because that creates clarity. And from clarity, it's so much easier to trust yourself, what you need and what you want.
So good. Well, you heard it here. Eija Ananda, thank you so much for your insight,
Thank you.
coaching. Thank you for sharing your story. It's not easy, no matter how far past it is. It can be challenging, and I know that. So I
got kind of red on my face.
That's okay. And I'm just grateful that you did. And I think for our listeners, people listening, I know there are people out there going through similar scenarios, and to be able to hear somebody else share their story and know that they're not alone is so important. So I couldn't be more grateful that you're here today and are able to share with our listeners your story and also your coaching journey. And we'll make sure they're connected to you. And, for our listeners, if something in today's conversation really resonated with you, and I can't imagine it wouldn't, if you feel like maybe, I don't know, it's too late, or dating isn't for you, or maybe you missed your chance, first of all, let this be the reminder. Love doesn't disappear with time, right? But the version of you trying to receive it might need to evolve. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to take that one brave step. So if this episode spoke to you, do me a favor, share it with someone who might need it. That's how we pay it forward. And that's how we get this conversation to more and more people. And if you're ready to reclaim your confidence, you can connect with me at the Sock Drawer Podcast. I'm Lisa Begley. Until next time, SDR family, stay brave. And we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Every week we come here and open the drawer. You already know what's inside. You always have. And if this conversation challenged you in a good way, and you think it will help challenge someone else who needs it, send it to them, because that's how we pay it forward together. Subscribe and follow so you never miss what's coming next. And find us at thesockdrawerpodcast.com.